On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, Brennan Vogt from the Rink, Colorado joins us. We get his take on everything that's happened so far with the Avalanche in the offseason and how he thinks things are going to go this upcoming year. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter X, Locked On Avalanche Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. Make sure you're subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. And when you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. Get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast, which today is being joined by a very special guest. First time on the show, and that is Mr. Brennan Vogt from the Rink, Colorado. Brennan, thank you for joining, sir. Very nice to have you here.
Wow, it's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. You are dialed in with the team, and with the Eagles too, right? You followed them for quite a while. Is that another year coming up that you're going to be following the Colorado Eagles a good amount? What's the deal?
That's the plan for now. I did 32 home games last year, despite the back surgery, and
that is a trooper.
And hopefully 30. Well, no, I will be doing at least 34, more than likely 34 home games this year.
All right. So the young guys of the Avs, you've seen them up close and personal for a lot of games. So we'll talk about them in a little bit, but where we're going to start today, sir, is kind of like this is the soap opera of the offseason for the Colorado Avalanche. And that is Nichushkin and Gabe Landeskog and everything going on with them. I kind of just want to throw it to you. Start with, I don't know, who would you prefer to start with?
Start with the captain.
Okay.
Okay. I was thinking the same thing, Kyle. Start with the captain. So, Gabe Landeskog, I don't know if you have any other thoughts of what's already been out there, but your take on the whole thing, and everybody's kind of throwing their guesses out there on when he's going to come back, if he's going to come back, if he's going to last the season. Summarize everything for Gabe Landeskog and where you sit on the whole thing.
Well, I'll be upfront. He's one of my favorite players. He was one of the first people I interviewed when I was credentialed for the NHL, so I'm a little bit biased. I'll put that out.
Totally fine. Totally fine.
It's so. Right. I know that Lamar Ball got the surgery for the Bulls. I know he's playing a different game. Basketball is a little bit harder on the ankles and the knees and everything like that. But I recall seeing, I think it was like a month ago, that he had been cleared for basketball activities. So I would think that we would be expecting to see Gabe be cleared for hockey activities relatively soon, if not by training camp. If he is, I don't think he would be put into the fray right away, to be honest. I don't think we'll see him in training camp games. They're too risky. Those are guys that are trying to fight for roster spots. They're going to be rough. They're going to go after body parts, things like that.
You think they would do that to him in preseason? In preseason?
Absolutely.
I mean, I know like regular season, all bets are off, and hey, like you're out there on the ice for a regular season game, go for it. But knowing what he's just gone through for the past 2 years, you think that that's an opportunity for someone trying to make their name and make a team to take a run at him in preseason? You think that?
I'm not pointing a finger at any player in particular, but like if it's a fourth line grinder that that's trying to make a name, and hey, I'm a I'm a fighter, I'm a hitter, and things like that. And Gabe happens to have the puck in the corner, and the situation calls for it. He may get hit and may get hit in the wrong angle. I don't think they're going to take the risk in the preseason at all. They don't do it with Nate until like the last game, usually. So once they do start easing him in the games, I think they would, like you guys were saying yesterday, it would be few minutes, few shifts, and it wouldn't be until like November, December, if even that.
Really? Okay. And do you think that they would put him out there if he's anything other than what he would deem to be 100%?
No.
Like, I mean, if he's like 90% and he's like, hey, I'm good enough to go, I can do most things, but I wouldn't consider myself 100%. You think this like, nope, we want you to be what you could be considered 100% at?
Well, talking from experience and knee injuries myself, but not nearly anything as bad as his.
Right.
He's going to know his body better than anyone else. And if anything seems to be tweaked a little bit, he's probably going to say yes or no on it. But he's going to be the only one who can tell us whether he can go or not.
And I'll just ask the question here. We are talking about the 90%, 100%. If it gets to that November, December date, if it gets to January, February, does the pressure start mounting for Landeskog at this point, being 3 years into this? Does he just say, I don't think I can do this? I don't think I can reach 100% again? And do you think he will actually walk away under his own power instead of testing this out?
Well, I have thrown this idea out there that they may throw him down to Loveland for a game or two to test it out. There is an option that you can while you're on LTIR to take that person off of LTIR do a conditioning loan, and I believe it's up to like 3 games or 10 days or something like that. I'd have to double check, but
I think it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's some weird. It's a short time frame, so you'd have to time it like just perfect, so he could get like 3 games in. So it'd have to be like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or something like that, and he could go down, test it out. But once again, it's the concern of these guys are fighting for roster spots.
Yeah,
they're gonna go
especially in
after
the AHL, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The AHL is a completely different game. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the way Keaton Middleton plays.
Oh yeah,
160 some penalty minutes in the AHL. Most of it comes from fighting, but the guy can hit too, and he'll take you out in the corner, and he doesn't hold back or anything like that. It doesn't matter. And Sam Malinsky's done the same thing. He's laid someone out in the corner. I think the hit went viral. It was against Texas last year or something like that. But it nobody holds back in the AHL because they're trying to make an impression.
Right. Absolutely. Definitely. Switch over to Val. Obviously, we know what's going on with him. Same thing. What is your vibe on him and what the team? I mean, we kind of know what the team thinks based on what Chris McFarland said in his press conference, but where do you think this thing goes, man, long term? This is I mentioned the soap opera to start the show. This is it right here.
Yeah, and he was announced that he was going to do that celebrity tournament that happened over the weekend. Not tournament, celebrity game.
That's right.
But he bowed out and wasn't on the roster. So on the plus side, he didn't do that. So that's a good thing. So fans can't hold that against him.
Right.
But and I think there's that media thing that he's supposed to be doing later this month or at the beginning of August, kind of like the Beauty League.
That's correct.
What was
that?
The media,
the celebrity game was something else, and I believe it had KHL, NHL All-Star.
It did.
Yeah.
Was the function between that. This media league is the one that we've been hearing the rumors of for a while, and what was the purpose of him being allowed to go back home and everything under stage 3 of the program.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know exactly what the issues are. I'm sorry, not the issues. Like what he has to do during stage 3, because if anyone's following him on Instagram, him or his wife, you'll see that they've been in like Italy and other countries and stuff like that. It's like, okay, so how are you getting better unless you're doing
where's
like
the treatment, man? Right.
Yeah, where's the treatment? Unless he's doing telehealth or something like that. So you can't hold him against that. Hold that against him or anything. But
I mean, I know you got to live. Like, you mean, you have a life, and even if you go into treatment, it's not like you are, that is day in and day out what you're doing. Can be if you're at that level of treatment, but clearly it doesn't seem like he's at that level. So you do have questions on, I don't want to say like, is he taking it serious? I really hope that he is taking this treatment part seriously, but he's also an athlete that can, he has a lot of freedom right now as far as an off season. So it does seem like he's using that to travel. I just hope that he's using, other parts of it for what we want him to, and that's getting himself right.
Well, and I do recall him doing the kind of a similar thing last year, where after the Seattle thing, he kind of let things cool down a little, and then all of a sudden you just see him pop up, and he's traveling Europe.
So, isn't that when he had like the
rifle,
like was it a rifle or so? Yeah, stuff like that.
The not good pictures of him with a rifle and things like that. But it's like,
so what do you think though? Like, what do you think is going to happen with him and the team?
Well, that's if Gary Bettman even.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
So that's assuming that Gary Bettman even clears him. So come November, he'd be able to resume with the team. Mid-November, he'd miss like 16 games if he does. And then they're going to want to roll him in just like Sam Girard did. But I think the Avs are looking for escape routes.
Think so?
I think so.
But do you feel like there's there's buyers here?
No.
Yeah. That's I think where Kyle and I are at. Like I would have to think they're looking at all options.
Yeah.
But I think it's tough to look at all these options because there's not a lot of people that are saying like, yeah, we'll take them off your hands, because I kind of feel like what happened.
Yeah, Chris McFarland did say during the last press conference, he's like, we're looking at every option available. And it's like, okay, so does that include trying to terminate his contract? Does that include trying to trade him? Does that include, anything and everything? Or does that include bringing him back? Because we saw the attitude Jack Johnson had. I know he's not with the team anymore, but you got to assume that that's some of the attitude that the players have.
Sure.
And
go ahead.
To your escape plan, also to McFarland's comments before the draft, talking about when the captain comes back, we're prepared to pay him that money and have the financials set up that way. But you see the Avs already spending over the cap as it is. Do you not feel like the Avs already have in their mind that this escape clause, whether it's buyout or trade out, is already part of the plan and why they're going over this cap as well?
Columbus may not take them, to go on your guys' comment from yesterday.
Yeah, you heard that yesterday. Everyone's going to Columbus.
And Utah's trying to build up. So Utah may be a legitimate buyer, but what do they have to give? So
where are they with draft picks right now? They usually have just a stockpile of draft picks, but
don't send us a jersey.
It's that jersey.
Well, that jersey that they wore during the draft wasn't the actual jersey, so it was just something that it was a placeholder.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are the two stories that are being watched closely, and it's just two different stories heading in two different directions. But yeah, we'll get answers to them as the season starts and the season goes on, maybe relatively early within the first couple months. So we'll have to wait. All right, let's get our first break in, and then we come back. We'll get into this this youth movement potentially for the Avalanche. Do they go down that road this year? So we'll talk about that coming up next. All right, let's hear from FanDuel. And we all love sports here, and we love them so much that we never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, or actually they're over with the NHL and the NBA, we get fewer and fewer games. And Kyle, are those sportsing like you want them to?
For the Rockies, they are.
Oh, at least for one game they did. So, hey, why not? But FanDuel lets us keep the sports going whenever we want, and all we have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime that we're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com, start making the most out of your summer. With FanDuel, it's the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, let's jump into the youth of the Avalanche, because as excited as everybody gets for the stars, for your McKinnons, Makars, Rantanens, all that stuff, there's always that excitement for those prospects that, you know, you have high hopes for, or even guys that maybe come out of nowhere and kind of make a name for themselves as guys that make the team that you really weren't expecting, or that you were expecting, and they find, you know, they live up to that expectation of where they were drafted and all that. I think the two big names, I think, for most Avs fans right now, Callum Ritchie and Nikolai Kovalenko. I could the Avalanche have both of those guys starting for them on day one?
They're cheap options.
Sure. I mean, that helps.
Yeah, since that's all we've been talking about is cap and everything. So
I mean, that's a good point, though. Like, cap wise, sure. Skill wise, is it a little bit too early? Or hey, like they're maybe a little bit more, I guess, maybe advanced, and you could put them on a starting role on day one.
Well, Kovalenko has already had a few games, and both AHL and NHL. He struggled a bit at the NHL level, I think.
But, he admitted that too. Like he said, yep.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, Evan got a video of him saying that, you know, I tried hitting people and they didn't go down. I was like, yeah, dude, they've got 6 inches on you. Of course they do. So,
yeah.
Because he's my size. He's 5'10", and I've got 30 pounds on him. So, but he's not very big, but his wrist shot is something else.
Mm.
And I know he had that wrist injury earlier in the year, but I think when the Avs took him away from the Eagles, and I know they're doing exactly what they're supposed to, he was just starting to get comfortable.
Okay.
So if he's going through camp and he's going through the like the games and everything, I think he'll progress a little bit easier this time around. But being dropped in with an injury and everything like that, and
they can't all be Cale Makars, like when you just drop them into
right.
Yeah. Go.
And like when you look at the moves, that they're not blowing you away when you read them across the ticker of like bringing back Megna and Tynan. Like, are these moves to kind of prepare you for, hey, there's going to be a lot of up and down between Loveland and Denver, and prepare for it? And names like Kovalenko and Ritchie might become mainstays because of the cap reason, and they're bolstering the Eagles with guys who already know the system because they know it's going to be an up and down year for probably everybody.
Well, Magna's on an AHL contract.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't, unless he pulls a Kiviranta, he can't be signed, or he can't be sent back and forth.
That was only an AHL contract that they signed him to?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't think I remembered. I mean, I wow. Okay. That's shocking to me. Wow.
Yeah. So, but I
I
mean,
mean, he's
I'm
one of the
excited.
greatest AHL players. Like, he's phenomenal in the AHL.
Yeah, it's locking down that core. You have Loveland kind of centered around Megna, but with the up and down, you want to keep both teams going and some consistency between them both. Like, that's what I saw when I saw Megna coming back under that deal. I was like, okay, they're preparing for something and a lot of action between these two teams, because usually you see the Avs go out and make these Abe Kubel, these Belmar moves, these little cheap 750,000, 850,000 Zach Parise for one, and just to fill out depth in the roster. And we have screamed for years, like, finally, can we get a youth movement? Can we start calling up some guys? Do you feel like this is finally the year that we see that? Because maybe cap, and you just can't go out there and buy the Band-Aids for depth.
They did get a lot of depth, yeah, and with Magna, Tynan, and McDonald, I'm excited about it because I've already, I'm familiar with the players, so it's getting dropped back into 2019 again.
Yeah, I think I've been seeing a lot of people concerned. Maybe not concerned is not the right word, but they don't want to.
But no, that's.
Go ahead. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
We're all good.
All right, go ahead. Who's going? Am I going or you?
You good. You're good.
Okay. All right. I've been seeing a lot of people having concern about if you start Callum Ritchie down on like a fourth line, would that like stunt his growth a little bit? They don't really want to see him down there. And is this another like Tyson Jost thing where you're burying him on like a depth line? And so I get that, but number one, like, where else are you going to put him right now?
Yeah,
your 1, 2, 3 C's are pretty much set. But the other thing that I really like if you put him with Kovalenko, then those two guys are kind of. If you put a fourth line that I would love to see is Richie, Kovalenko, and like Parker Kelly, because then Parker Kelly's skating around being like, "Don't mess with the young guys. I got them covered," and they can get to know each other on a line and then progress together instead of just one guy that's like, getting like his legs and stuff in the NHL. And then when he has any movement up and down lines, he's, introduced to a brand new line. He's got to start that process all over again. I just like if him and Kovalenko are a tandem, then the two of them can figure stuff out together and progress as a pair. That kind of is something. I mean, I don't know, is that too far-fetched or no?
I don't think so. And honestly, I forgot about Parker Kelly.
Dude, the Parker Kelly signing to me is one of my favorites. It just is. I just think he is going to be a fan favorite. And he's going to have that just no quit attitude that all hockey fan bases love. So I think he's going to be great.
You still have Kelvin DeHaan and Brandstrom too. There's a lot of names on this roster, and honestly, if you go with that line, it makes Cogliano's job so much easier, and he's going to get a head coaching job in 3 years. He's going to look like a genius.
Yeah.
Well, and you've also got Wags competing for that fourth line center. You've got Foodie competing for that fourth line center. Because Foodie is hungry. He's in a contract year. And so, and he's healthy for the first time in 2 years, coming out of the summer. So, I think, and same thing with Wags, he's healthy coming out of the summer. So they're both going to be wanting that center position over Richie. Richie, I think, even said he needs to gain weight. He needs to get bigger and stronger. So admitting that, yes, is a step, but you've got 2 months to do it. So, and 8 weeks is not a long time in order to put on muscle weight. So
start down in those Big Macs, brother.
And I like the fact that you brought up Wags, because his time in the NHL last year, he had some high praise from Bednar as well. And he's a name that you just kind of get used to being around the Avalanche system, and you really don't consider that might be a name that really sneaks through during camp and preseason, that it shouldn't shock you if he makes the roster.
Him and McDonald, I think, are going to be up and down guys a lot. McDonald, we all know, is a guy that is going to be used in the very similar sense that McDermott was as a forward and a D-man. I liked McDonald as a forward. He's that pesky little brat that you never get rid of in the fourth line. And he was always in your face in the crease because that's what he's used to on the other end. But Wags is going to be competing to keep his career going.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing against the guy. He's a great guy, really nice, and I think he's a grinder. It hits hard, and he's great at the AHL level. It's just he's going to be competing to try and keep that career going.
How big of a year is this for Oscar Olausson?
Huge.
Yeah.
He was at training camp, and he looked like he's coming back from a shoulder injury that he was just starting to skate during the end of playoffs. So, and you could tell there was certain things missing at the development camp from his game, but he's trying to develop his game into a harder hitting game, and I think that's what threw his shoulder out.
But that's not really his game, though. It's
neither was Foodie's, and that's exactly what Foodie's doing too.
Yeah. No, and that was the kind of the rub on him, was like he had to introduce that at some point of his game with Olausson, because he just would not just do it. He would avoid contact, and you're like, well, you cannot continue to do that. So yeah, I mean, are you introducing it? Sure. He seemed to get hurt because of it. So I am not against him of it being part of his game because it needs to be, but I can't imagine this is going to be like the forefront. He's not changing his style of game to be, now I'm going to be a much more aggressive player in terms of like going around and hitting people, because it's just not his game.
Yeah, but he's not going to be like a Chris Wagner type player. No,
God,
no.
No.
Yeah, he's not going to hit people like a truck.
But if it's enough where like he's trying to incorporate into his game and he's getting hurt all the time because of it, what are we doing here?
Yeah. If I recall, the play was just like he got hit wrong in the corner and he got pinched in the shoulder or something like that. It was in Ontario, so it's like I didn't actually get to talk to him after the game because it was in LA. So,
and at what point do you? I know you're trying to make your way to the show. But you also have to look up and understand Bednar does not want that extracurricular, and he doesn't need that physicality. Like he traded Cody McLeod out of here for that. And like Zadorov, when it became that was apparent that was what he was there for, he also got the boot, and same for McDermott. Like, why would you incorporate that when it's really not in your wheelhouse? Is it to stand out amongst the rest of the talent trying to fit in with the Avalanche system?
Well, that's what a fourth liner does.
Yeah, right.
And we all know that the fourth liners are hitters and grinders, and if he's going to try and work his way onto a fourth line and then work his way up, he's got to have that incorporated into his game a little bit.
Yeah, no, I get it. That it makes sense, but it's a tough aspect of his game to ask him to introduce when it hasn't been part of his game as long as he's been playing. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let's get into this season, where you think this thing is going this year. Avs, as far as favorites, they're still towards the top. I think they're in the top 5 with FanDuel anyway for favorites to win the cup. But where do you see them? Like what early before training camp has even started? How you think this season is going to play out for the Avalanche? Everything we talked about with Val and Gabe and the youth guys, the guys that they signed, we know who their superstars are. What are you expecting this year from the Avs?
Well, I'm seeing like a third in the Central finish. Dallas is ramping up. Nashville, gosh, they
Nashville
loaded
ramped
up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's just say they ramped up, and that's putting it mildly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Steven Stamkos fan, and I don't know if I can cheer for Nashville.
And by the way, it's Stamco. I'm sure you saw that jersey.
No S on the.
They didn't add the
jerseys
S
in
for some.
Nashville.
Yeah, right. Whatever.
Yeah. It's just the fact that he's in a yellow jersey just makes me want to hurl. So, not a blue.
Yeah.
But it's hard to see him above the third in the Central. To be honest.
But do you think it's going to be like a comfortable third, or are they going to be fighting it out for who could be the fourth in the division that is going to press it? Or is it going to be like last year where, well, I mean, you have three teams. I don't know if a lot of people really figured Winnipeg would be that third team last year. And where are they this year? So you incorporate Nashville into this. Is this now a 4-team race if you're, looking for a top 3 spot? Because those 3 spots in the division were you knew who they were going to be as the season went on. Like I said, you didn't think it was going to be Winnipeg at the beginning of the season, but they were legit as the season went. And it was like, these are the 3 teams, just got to figure out the seeding. Do you think it's going to be similar to that? Or if you're thinking the Avalanche are going to be third in the division, is it a comfortable third, or is there someone there that's going to be pushing them?
Well, Winnipeg's going to have a new coach. So that may have a little bit to do with them falling in the division a bit. But Hellebuyck can only do so much. And I'm not saying
as
that's
we've seen.
Yeah. It's not the only player they have, but when everything's getting through and he's the last line of defense, he can only do so much.
Right.
But do you see this as like 2018, the Avs fighting to get to that spot? Or is it just the caliber of teams in the Central have done so much more because the Avs are carrying the Gabe and Val situation? They really have not been able to match or make competitive moves, and talent alone is going to land them in that third spot.
I think talent alone is going to get them into that third spot. And and I don't want to go back to 2018. That's too close to 16, 17.
Yeah. That was some fun times.
But that moment the following year against St. Louis, winner take all. To get in the play is still like one of my favorite moments ever.
I had season tickets at 16, 17, and that was a long year.
Did you go to every game?
Every game.
There you go. That's a fan right there. Stick with them even in the bad times. But do you feel like if, and this is a big if because this does not happen, like right or rarely, where everything just goes right for a team, like minimal injuries or suspensions, and everything is just clicking. Yeah, you're going to have your ups and downs over the course of a hockey season. It's a long year, 82 games. There's going to be good moments and bad moments, but usually things kind of level off. But if the things go right in that of what we were talking about in the beginning with Val, he comes back, doesn't have any issues. Gabe is miraculously healthy and doesn't have any ill effects. Does your mindset change? Because they could potentially come back. Well, if again, this is all if all the dominoes line up properly, and you do get Nichushkin back when he can in November, and there's no like dragging that out till December. And same thing with Gabe, if he comes back, let's say November, then you have a 75% of the season where you can see them playing. And if they're doing well, does your mind change of, okay, like those are 2 huge pieces of this team, and that's better than a third place team?
Yeah, and Landeskog is going to be around the team more.
Yeah,
at this point. I know you guys had been discussing whether he keeps the C and all that fun stuff. So I would have said that Cale gets the C in my opinion, but that's just me.
I love that discussion of if it's not Gabe, who is it? Because I mean, it's you get McKinnon, you get Cale, You get
Kale-
Taves.
Kale's a little more level-headed, but then again, Taves does speak his mind.
Yeah.
About things.
Yeah.
We've seen that in the past.
Yep.
But Nate has his moments of being a little bit of a too hot head.
Oh, yeah.
But that's going off on another subject. But
yeah.
I think that since Landy's going to be around a little bit more, that's going to have a little bit more of an impact on the room. That Cogs is going to still be around the room, so that's still going to have a little bit of an impact. Yeah, he may not be wearing skates or anything like that technically, but he's going to be around.
It's a big deal,
and the veterans are going to be able to calm those younger guys on the bottom six, and keep them where they need to be.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you got, Kyle?
No, I'm just the NHL 25 rosters. Like I've been thinking about that as you posed it. Like there's no drama, no health. Like this is name exactly how they're going to be overall versus everybody. And I'm still thinking about it and how it could work. Because like your third line is basically your test experiment, and your fourth line is your youth experiment. So you got your first two lines pretty much figured out. Is that enough?
Mm-hmm.
And does Stamkos move the needle enough with everything they're doing in Nashville? And does he hold up through the year? It's a lot of interesting questions going into the Central.
Well, you also have Marcia Show that joined him too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's a little bit of a spark plug over there too.
Yeah, I mean it's not supposed to be easy, right? And I think you look back at the 22 championship, and in the moment it's not, it's never easy, but you look back and you're like, man, like that was a team that just hot knife through butter. That was a stacked great team. Still a challenge to get through a hockey playoff, as it should be. But I think this year will be can they do it? I'm one of those guys. It's like you get in the playoffs and anything is possible. And when you have Nathan McKinnon on your team, when you have Cale Makar on your team, and you get a couple guys maybe that overachieve, anything is possible. It's we've seen it so many times in sports. So I think they have a very good team. It's definitely a playoff team. Are they head and shoulders above the league like they were in the 22? No, they're not. Does that mean they can't win it? No, also no. So, but it does mean it will be a bigger challenge for them.
I think a big question marks is going to be whether Georgia can handle another, 60, 70 games again this year.
That just cannot happen.
It shall not happen.
It cannot. Absolutely. And good.
I know Annanen's he's ready to step up, but it's whether he's really ready to step up and handle 20, 25 games of a workload in the NHL. I've seen him definitely handle it in the AHL, but he was only getting like 5-6 games in the NHL, and they're against like the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's so true. Like we loved what he did, but it's such a small sample size and not against some elite teams.
Yeah.
But you liked what you saw, but it's a big question mark if he can take that next step and be that true backup. We'll see.
Yeah, it's like I'd like to see Annunen against like the Rangers or didn't
he have a good game against Edmonton, if I'm not mistaken? I could have sworn like he did. He played.
I think he had to come in.
Was that it?
I think he.
I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Why do I feel like he started one against Florida last year?
I can't remember. I know he had the 2 back-to-back shutouts against Chicago. That stands out, but the other ones I can't remember who they were.
Exactly right. It's like those are teams that I'd like to see him play against. It's like Florida and Edmonton and the playoff teams, Dallas and things, now Nashville. It's those type of games that it's like, okay, Georgia, if you've taken like 5-6 games in a row, 2 of them were back-to-backs or whatever. and you have that confidence in Annunen to be able to say, go. Give him a pat on the butt and just say go.
It was like with Frankie. That was with Francois. It was like it didn't matter. Like if they had to give Grubauer a break, here's your break. Doesn't matter who the opponent is because we have as much faith in Francois as we did in Grubauer. It's where they got to get with the two guys that they have now. So
and it's not there at all with Minor. And then gosh, they signed someone else that on a two-way, the Ottawa kid.
Yeah, I saw that.
Mando.
Yeah,
the Mandalorian. Dude, they signed so many goalies. They're going to have a fourth line goalie line. Like they're going to be playing goalies at forward next year.
Well, so they've got 2 AHL signings in Utah now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this kid that got lit up like a Christmas tree in one of the games at the end of the year last year for the Eagles, and I think it was like 8 shots. He had 5 goals.
Mm-hmm.
It was depressing.
Only gets better from here.
Yeah. And they pulled him and put in some like 5'4". Like that's how big he was.
What?
Yeah. So he was on a PTO. They'd pulled him up, and he was from Utah, and it was all during like when Annunen was sick and Prospatov was sick.
Yeah.
So it was like a trickle down effect.
Oh my God.
It just got worse and worse, and Minor was injured, and it was bad.
So you can like things like that happen, and you can kind of see why they're going down the road they're going down with signing all these goalies. It's not just for the NHL side of things; it's for the levels below it.
The Eagles lost a playoff bid and lost playoff spots because Annunen and Prospatov got sick.
Man.
And that's with the contributions of Tufte too. Yeah, I remember that stretch.
Yeah. Tufte, they should have signed him too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of people liked him.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they let him go.
Well, and he was a great guy in the hallway. He'd always check on you. And, like, there was one point I was walking sideways because of my back, and he's like, how's your back? And
no way.
Yeah. And he was just a great guy to be around. And he led the team in points, and they're not bringing him back.
It's crazy. That's too
Brad
bad.
Hunt, too. Another one they're not
Brad Hunt's own.
He's yet to have been signed.
He's still floating around.
So Spencer Smallman.
Kyle's a big.
He's in Hershey.
Oh, is he? He's a Bear?
Yeah. Well, he's on a 1 year 2-way with
really
Washington Capitals. I thought you'd seen that, so that was going to make you happy.
Yeah. All right.
With the Bears. So
yeah. All right, man. We'll wrap it up there, but we will definitely have you on again, maybe sometime during the season when the Avs are just slicing and dicing their way to the top of the standings and just proving you wrong. But you're probably not going to be wrong because I think
so.
That would be nice. It would be nice, but I'm kind of in agreement with you. I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people realize that this is a good team, but there are clearly some question marks. So we'll see how it goes. Throw out where people can follow you, sir, because you do some good work over there.
You can find me on Twitter at my first name, Brennan, BRENNAN _ V as in Victor OGT. And then my website with a bunch of other guys. We cover the Hawks and the Avs at therink.com. And then follow Savvy Rafkin. She's one of our other writers for the Avs. And then Chloe Wright. She's going to be a new person this year.
I saw you were looking for some new writers. Is that's the newest one?
She's the newest one that's confirmed. We're in the process of interviewing another one.
Very good. Well, good luck to her. So, all right, man. Excellent stuff. Thanks for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. So,
my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. So he is a Brennan Vogt, and for Mr. Shaggy Von Doom. Wow. Did I? What accent was that came out of me? I have no idea what that was.
German?
Yeah. No, he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom. I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.